In this section, we're talking about Azure Storage Solutions. It is important for an architect to know not only the solution, but also where the solution and the data is going to reside on said solution. The important aspects of storage solutions is being able to select and choose a storage tier, understanding the different storage account support tiers that are available to you, understanding the tools that are going to be required and ones that you will be using in order to manage and manipulate those accounts. Then we'll move into a few labs, the first one being blob storage archiving, and the second one being creating and mounting Azure file shares. And then we'll move on to a section summary. For our first lesson, we're talking about choosing a storage tier. There are essentially three different storage tiers that are available to you. The first one's hot, the second one is cool, and the last one is archive. For each of these storage tiers, we're going to be talking about a lot of the different features, but each of them are going to have kind of the same idea here as food, honestly. For the hot tier, the food is going to be right there for you to consume. You got your fork, and all you need left to do is to eat it. Cool is going to be a little different. Think of that as a refrigerator. It's a place where there's food available to you, but you're not currently eating it, but you want to make sure that it is available anytime that you do. For archive, it's going to be like a freezer. It's a place where you're not readily going to eat any of the food that's going to be available to you for a certain period of time. And if you need any of the food that is inside of the freezer, you're going to need to bring it back to a cool or a hot state in order to make it edible. And just to clarify for the purpose of this discussion, we're talking about meal food, not frozen treats, which can be technically consumed directly from a freezer. Now that we've gotten that analogy out of the way, let's go ahead and start talking about the categories and the differences between each of the different tiers. Using the slider at the bottom, we'll talk about the differences between things like price and time. The first one is going to be storage cost. Every time that you get hot food or hot data, it's going to take almost instantaneous in order for it to be readily available to you. The price of which you're paying for the hot storage, the hot data, is going to be more than cool or archive because it needs to be so readily available. So if you don't need the storage to be readily available, you can always choose a cool or an archive depending on the type of data and when you need to access it. Which automatically brings us to our next category, access delay. Hot storage, once again, is going to have a much quicker time of access than the cool or the archive storage. I'll also preface that with the cool storage isn't a whole lot different than the hot storage, just a little bit less, but much more accessible than archive storage. For read and write transaction cost, the hot and the cool storage is actually going to take a lot less money than the archive storage. Again, we have to manipulate that data once it gets into archive, so it's not really meant in order to be read or written to after it reaches the archive. So if you do need data from archive, it's going to cost you more in order to pull it out of archive in order for you to view it or modify it than it would be hot or cool. There is early deletion fees that are associated with cool and archive storage. For hot, there is none. It's expected that you're going to be adding, deleting, writing, etc. to all the data that's there, which is the reason why you're paying so much in order for it to be stored there. However, if you delete cool or archive storage, there is going to be a fee associated with that. Based off from each of the different ideas of hot, cool, and archive tier storage, what are the best uses? For hot, we have actively changing data and recent backups, less than 30 days. For cool storage, we have a little bit older backups, I would say between 30 and 90 days, and then regular type storage, like file share storage. Finally, archive is going to be used for long-term backups, at least 90 days. It's also going to be used for archive data and static or historical or compliance like HIPAA-related data.